Hopefully you had a great Thanksgiving and your Black Friday was everything that you wanted to be. And now hopefully the Chargers and Atlanta game is better for you. Chargers side first. You don't get points for Quentin Johnson drops, do you? Poor kid. I do
Yeah.
feel bad for him, Bloom. But let's talk about this Chargers and Falcons game. Chargers side first.
Yeah, Chargers coming off of a loss, seeing where they fit in the AFC power structure. But the reality is they're further ahead of schedule in the Jim Harbaugh year than we expected. And some of that is Justin Herbert as a passing threat. And certainly he has a high ceiling this week, partially because of Lad McConkey. And like you said, Quentin Johnson can come through. If Josh Palmer can make some plays downfield, maybe you have a ceiling play here. And of course, Will Dissly is now in our tight end one ranks. Remember, 32 teams playing this week. So Dissly not an automatic play, but maybe he is your best tight end. You are going to see J.K. Dobbins out for this one. Will he play in week 14, week 15? We'll see. It's Gus Edwards. Gus Edwards not that impressive, so we'll see some Hassan Haskins, some Kamani Vidal. The reality is there probably is no good play here. Maybe Gus Edwards as a what-the-heck flex. And we'll watch this Atlanta team coming off a straight-up beat down. How do you get better during a bye week whenever the Broncos rubbed your face in it the last time you played?
Yeah, how do you get better? Make sure Bijan Robinson gets his. That's
Yeah.
how. And then using all of your other weapons because there's a ton, but I think it all starts with Robinson and keeping Kirk safe, keeping Kirk clean, because we know the Chargers, their defensive plan is going to be, hey, that guy that can't move, that's trying to throw the ball, go get him.
Yeah, not quite as bad as it was at the beginning of the year, but still something where you're right, Cease. The rational coaching here is Bijan Robinson, now rested, should touch the ball 25 times a game, 28 times a game. And then when he's not getting the ball, let Tyler Algier moisture pounderize the defense, get them nice and soft, and then you run to set up the pass. So is it going to be more simple? Is it going to be a game for Darnell Mooney? Is Mooney over his hammy? That's a Denny's dish. We'll see. London should be in the lineup. Kyle Pitts, again, not an automatic play, but probably your best tight end. And then Kirk Cousins, not really a high ceiling play here, as the Chargers defense is pretty good, even though Lamar Jackson did a number on them. He's done a number on a lot of people. If Mooney's out, Ray McLeod is there potentially for a what the heck flex. Atlanta trying to show that they can actually hang with the NFC best by beating a likely playoff team in the AFC.
Yeah, let's move on to the AFC, and what a fight we could be in store for with Steelers and Bengals. And the Steelers side is who's healthy? Is it Najee? Yes, maybe Jalen. Not sure there. Like, let's watch that and monitor that situation. But Steelers football is simple, Bloom. Let's see if it's effective on Sunday.
Yeah, it might not be able to be so simple if the Steelers can't slow down Joe Burrow in that passing attack. So I think that Russell Wilson has a high ceiling here. Two quarterback superflex leagues could come through for you. George Pickens, maybe Calvin Austin. And Calvin Austin should see his snap count, his targets, his involvement in this offense going up, as he is the best deep threat that this offense has. You have Pat Fryermuth. I'd like to see some more Darnell Washington. I don't think there's a strong play here just because Washington deserves more work. Najee Harris, if the Bengals are playing with the lead in this game, if the Steelers are having to play a shootout, you have a chance for some short yardage touchdowns for Najee Harris, but I think it's a Jaylen Warren game. Jaylen Warren, a game the Steelers trailed against the Browns. Jaylen Warren got more snaps. Jaylen Warren was the better play. I think it's reasonable to project them as similar plays with maybe Warren a higher ceiling. And look, for the Steelers, they've only won 8 games, and they have the rest of their AFC North schedule and Kansas City and Philadelphia. Nothing is promised to the Steelers team, and they're playing a team that's cornered, a cornered animal, a cornered Bengals. They're going to strike.
Yeah, be careful with that because Joe Burrow can strike at any time.
Yeah.
Probably wish they would have kept Joe Mixon, but either way, we know that Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow, the rest of the Bengals assets they have, is T. Higgins healthy?
Yeah.
Then let's go. And they're going to want to go against their divisional opponent.
Yeah, and again, this is such a funny riddle of the NFL because you have a Bengals team that probably can't lose for the rest of the season if they want to make the playoffs. And even if they don't lose for the rest of the season, they still might not make the playoffs. But yet, if they can make the playoffs, they can win the Super Bowl because of Joe Burrow and Chase and Higgins. Higgins has to stay on the field, but when it's Burrow, Chase, and Higgins, good luck slowing down this passing attack. Pittsburgh Steelers losing a very winnable game against the Browns, one that they should have won. So Burrow's a high ceiling play. Chase and Higgins obviously in your lineup. And Chase Brown, I know they're saying we can't give him quite as many touches. They're going to give him as many touches as he can handle, which is going to be a lot. Chase Brown, basically their version of Devin Achane at this point, roughly similar values. And you're going to see this Bengals offense cease. As a Steelers fan, I'm scared. Hold me.
Yeah, we'll hold each other over the Thanksgiving weekend. Uh, Cardinals and Vikings is the next one we're going to watch together in our minds, Bloom. And the Cardinal side is just bouncing back from the bad taste in their mouth, and we see the backfield now maybe a little bit more of a split there with Trey Benson getting some work. And then, of course, Trey McBride getting most of everything. Can Marvin Harrison Jr. do a little bit more? Oh, yeah, it's the Vikings. So guess what's going to happen? Kyler Murray's going to get blitzed all day.
Yeah, and again, the NFL is so mercurial. I gotta say, Cease, when I see Arizona versus Minnesota, I think of Dennis Green, a great man. Rest in peace. Let him off the hook. But give him, and there's a lot more to his career than that moment. But the organization, both of these organizations, strong connection there. Is the Arizona offense sinking? Going into their bye week, they look like one of the best offenses in the league. Kyler Murray looked like he was getting it. Then they go up to Seattle and they're frustrated all day. That tells me we're going to see more James Conner in this one, established James Conner. However, with Brian Cashman out there, the Vikings run defense is good. So it might not be a James Conner game. It might fall back to Kyler Murray, throwing to, we know, Trey McBride. Trey McBride's going to get his. But I think they do this first read percent, the percentage of the time a player's first read. I think Trey McBride last week had the highest percentage of any player all year. It was over 50%. So over 50% of the time, the first read was Trey McBride. And they scored 6 points. So what can be really good for Trey McBride for fantasy can be bad for the Arizona offense. It means, and it's also making them predictable. So Marvin Harrison Jr. is a boom bust wide receiver 3 flex, and against a tough Vikings defense, maybe as this offense goes, so will he. And he's really only had 2 strong games. I even understand with 32 teams in action this week, depending on your roster, maybe you're debating whether to play Marvin Harrison Jr. this week. You're debating whether Arizona can really be a contender, even though depending on what week you watch, it looks like they are.
Yes, you're looking to start your Vikings and get happy post Thanksgiving, and you want a little bit more from Justin Jefferson. Because Jordan Addison getting it all, TJ Hawkinson getting it all, Aaron Jones getting it all. Leave some for Jefferson, man. He's more than a high priced, absolutely tremendous decoy. He's the man. Hopefully, can be on Sunday.
Yeah, this is going to be Sam Darnold, who bounced back last week. Now, hey, look, Arizona's defense, the no-name defense, had a pretty good week against Geno Smith. Geno Smith navigated some tough pressure and otherwise could have been making a lot of mistakes and having a lot of disaster in that game. So let's not take anything away from the Arizona defense. But you have Sam Darnold after some shaky moments the last few weeks. Last week was very good against Chicago. Jordan Addison is red hot. He has to go back in their lineup. TJ Hawkinson came on in overtime. He's looking like a tight end 1 going forward now. And hopefully what that means is Jefferson will get his, because the Bears were able to contain Justin Jefferson and they lost in overtime, and it was a close game, a back and forth game. I think they needed an onside kick, but at the same time, that's good, even though it was bad for you if you had Justin Jefferson last week. If teams know, hey, Jordan Addison's going to get you, TJ Hawkins isn't going to get you, they can't just devote their resources to taking away Justin Jefferson. And then Aaron Jones coming back on, turning this into a true lead backfield, not a committee backfield. Aaron Jones running really well, getting over that goal line fumble at the beginning of the game last week. So a balanced offense. We've come all the way full circle back to this Vikings team being a balanced team on offense. And even though they're looking up at the Lions, everything is very much ahead of schedule. And see, now we're back to asking, do they bring back Sam Darnold? If he keeps winning games, probably.
All right. It is Colts and Patriots up next. One of the less interesting games of the weekend, Bloom. So, let's do this. I'm just going to throw both teams at you because, well, it's the Colts and it's the Patriots. Now, again, for me personally, I'll still be watching Drake May weekly basis. You like what you see from Drake May. The Colts side, I'm less of a believer in Anthony Richardson than you, but still, we're putting a pin in it. We're watching that. But I'm going to throw you both teams because I'm not into this game as much.
Yeah, this game doesn't have a lot of implications. The Colts trying to at least keep the Texans in sight. If the Texans are in mid collapse, I don't think that's going to happen. But I don't think that Anthony Richardson should be on your bench. I know that he didn't do much for fantasy last week, but this is a New England defense that allowed the Miami downfield passing game finally to emerge this year for the first time last week. So even without Josh Downs, you would expect Anthony Richardson to have a good game. You would expect Jonathan Taylor to have a good game. Michael Pittman, a little banged up, still have a good game. And Alec Pierce. Alec Pierce is an excellent wide receiver reflex play simply because of the ceiling against this New England defense. Even A.D. Mitchell, who should get a full complement of snaps with Downs out, he is a good what the heck flex because this is a vertical passing game, because this is a very vulnerable New England secondary and defense. And by the way, the Detroit hangover, well, the Texans were fine against the Cowboys in week 11. So I don't know that we're necessarily buying into that. Although if the Colts are disappointing in this game, let's chalk it up to that. Drake May, high ceiling, quarterback 2, super flex, not really a quarterback 1 this week. Indy's defense held the Lions to 24 points. Ramondre Stevenson outside of our circle of trust now, as Antonio Gibson is coming on. And I guess if you're going to play someone from this passing game, it's Demario Douglas, it's Hunter Henry, not preferred options, but possible options. And we'll watch and see Kendrick Bourne and Kayshon Boutte. I just want to throw this out there. I didn't realize until I looked it up. He's only 22 years old. So while you might look at Kayshon Boutte and say, well, where's the fantasy production? When is it going to come? He's younger than a lot of receivers that are going to get drafted next year. So, dynasty, be patient. Maybe it's still going to come for Boutte. Maybe it'll still come by the end of the year.
Yeah, maybe it will. So keep an eye on that. 4 games down, 8 games to go here in the post Thanksgiving Black Friday preview of week 13. I think I got that right. It's Seattle and it's the Jets this time. Now, the Jets are that disaster. Seattle coming off a win, thinking, hey, we're feeling pretty good about what we're doing. And as you mentioned on the recap show, Sigmund, they have a number 1 wide receiver.
Yeah, this Seattle team, division leading Seattle team, and a team I think that they're back where they like to be, going back to the beast quake, right? No one's counting them in. So what did Geno Smith say? He didn't call back. So my brain is not retrieving the details from those past quotes, but it is retrieving the detail that you need to have Jackson Smith and Jigba in your line going forward. Top 5 wide receiver in the last 4 or 5 weeks. And yeah, that he's going to win championships for you. DK Metcalf should still be in your lineup, but Jackson Smith and Jigba is your number 1 option here. And Geno Smith has a high ceiling wide quarterback 2 super flex. Kenneth Walker powering this offense. And what we're going to watch here really is the Jets, a team that has given up. It's going to be funny if the 2 teams that gave up are the 2 New York teams, because you saw since last time we saw the Jets, lots of cracks showing, lots of people going to the media and telling their side of the story. Not exactly good for team unity. All right. So it could be a good game for Seattle, who's coming off of a very important win because they're facing a Jets team that has an extremely uncertain future, an uncertain present.
Volatile. That's the word I was going to use for it. And the Aaron Rodgers thing, like, he's going to start. Is it bad? And I say this somewhat sarcastically or totally like a smart ass. Sorry, Joe. Um, is it bad when it's week 13 and you have to be announced as still the starter
When your
and you're
team
healthy?
traded picks and money and everything.
Yeah,
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 too. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. So welcome to New York.
Yeah, and this is very similar to whenever the Browns said, well, it's possible that Deshaun Watson will play for us in the future. Aaron Rodgers, yeah, he's still our starter. He's not a good play. Breach Hall, you got to play because you know what the ceiling is. Garrett Wilson, you got to play because you know what the ceiling is. You don't have to play Devontae Adams, who is in that autumn slow decline period of his quality of play. Probably you're still going to play him because this offense, if they're going to hang, is going to be with Aaron Rodgers, but it is the Seattle corners, and they did a good job against Marvin Harrison Jr., again, funneling everything to Trey McBride in the middle of the field. That doesn't mean to play Tyler Conklin. It just means it could be a long afternoon for the Jets offense.
Yeah, long one there. Tennessee and Washington, maybe a little bit more interesting than people would think normally, because Tennessee showed some fight. I'll show the ability to speak English one day.
Right, right.
Tennessee showed the ability to fight with Tony Pollard, with Chiggy, Okonkwo, Ridley getting it done. So, what about now on the road against the Commanders?
Yeah, Tennessee, the costly win. Cease, we're in the costly win segment of the season. Another
Ah.
costly win coming for Tennessee. You know you're going to get Will Levis to Ridley. And even though Levis had a good game last week for fantasy, he's still a desperation play, even in 2 quarterback superflex, because he's only going to throw the ball probably 25 times, but enough will be to Ridley to keep him in your lineup. Do we see a reaction after Chiggy Okonkwo ran away from the defense? Maybe a few more touches by design, maybe a little more of an element in the game plan here. You know that Tony Pollard's going to be a big part of the game plan, even if Tyjae Spears plays. Tony Pollard has earned that flex play, if not a running back 2 play. And will we see another Nick Westbrook-Ikhine, 6 touchdowns in 7 weeks? There's
Woo.
always one play a week. The defense will not account for him. Maybe it's because all those letters on the back of his jersey. So you do that, you get what the heck flex status.
Yes, and that is pretty damn good. Let's talk Commander's side and who's going to play at running back? Is it Jeremy
Right.
McNichols, right? The former Boise State product who can do a lot, just maybe not produce the way you want him to there. You know that Terry McLaurin is going to produce, and you know that Jaden Daniels is going to run around and distribute the ball, attack a defense with his legs. At home, what do the Commanders look like this week banged up?
Yeah, and that's a great question. I mean, this is an open question because what we're seeing, and this is the pattern. And the nice thing is, people are doing such great work with data visualization out there, making things so easy for our old feeble brain cease as we trip over our words to look and see the data instead of having to think about the data. Cliff Kingsbury offenses tail off in the second half of the year. It's a familiar picture, and the NFL does catch up. Matt
Mm-hmm.
Waldman always tells about those 4-week chunks, the windows you always talk about, Cease. Well, the window has closed for this to be a ceiling offense or one of the best offenses in the league, can at least get back to middling when you don't have a running game. So it makes you wonder, do I play Jaden Daniels? And Jaden Daniels' production last week mostly came in the second half. For the first half, the Washington offense was one of the worst on the field in any of the games last week. Tennessee's defense is not a pushover. So you're going to play Jaden Daniels more because they're not going to have a running game. We'll see probably Chris Rodriguez mixed in some deep dynasty, put a pin in that. But it's going to be a lot on Jaden Daniels, which means you're going to play Terry McLaurin. Noah Brown becomes a better what the heck flex. Zach Ertz becomes a better tight end. I want to see more Luke McCaffrey. A lot of good cut ups out there. McCaffrey's open. McCaffrey looks good for a rookie that was a quarterback convert. Now this is the week maybe to unleash him as Washington, much like the Steelers. Hey, nothing is promised to you. It was great what you've done so far this season, but you got to keep winning games you're supposed to win, like that Dallas game last week. You didn't win that one. You better win this one.
All right. Houston didn't win, but they got Jacksonville. So, like, okay, should look better and should look better because Joe Mixon out there settling things down and CJ Stroud and his targets. And hey, you want an elixir to get back on the right track? I give you the Jacksonville Jaguars.
It should be. These teams have already played this year. It was a close game, but in that game, the Texans did not have Joe Mixon. They did not have Tank Dell. In that game, CJ Stroud threw for 340, about 150 of it to Nico Collins. So if you're looking at CJ Stroud and you're weighing him against another similar option, go with Stroud because he's had success. Collins, obviously, a big play this week. Tank Dell, break any ties in favor of him. And the leading ball carrier for this team in the first matchup, Cam Akers. Now on the Minnesota Vikings roster, it's going to be a big Joe Mixon game here. And for Houston, you just want them to not make this division race interesting. Don't start losing a bunch of games you're supposed to win and back into the Colts being in this divisional picture. They do have the tiebreaker over the Colts, so basically a 3-game lead. You blow this one with the Colts in New England, it might be a 2-game lead. There's a lot of games left.
What are we watching Jacksonville for? Like, what are we watching them for the rest of the year as they try to figure things out? Still with Doug Peterson? Okay, Shad, you can make that change. So I ask you, and fantasy GMs out there, Bloom, what are we watching Jacksonville for?
Right. And really, Cease, if we are to believe the Jets, who are trying to put a lot out there to show how deliberate and sound their decision making process is,
Sure.
why is Trent Baalke still the GM? Right?
Mm.
Because that's the reason for firing Joe Douglas in the middle of the season, if you believe the Jets, is we want to start the search now. And they have the search with Mike Tannenbaum. It's kind of funny when you fail as a team's GM and then you come back to help them find a new one. Anyway, this is definitely something interesting to watch. And Cease, to answer your question, I guess remember when we used to get in the head of Bill Belichick, a scary Kind of
Yes.
fun place to be. I guess getting the head of Bill Belichick. Like, am I really going to coach this team next year? Trevor Lawrence, the defense, it's pretty good. Devin Lloyd, pretty good there. I mean, guess that's it. That's what you're watching for. Is Trevor Lawrence going to play? He's hurt. He's actually hurt, but he wants to play. So that's a tough decision for this team. It's a non-throwing shoulder. If Lawrence plays, we're much more excited to play Brian Thomas. We're little more excited to play Evan Engram. He wasn't in this game the first time around. Thomas had a 6 for 86 and a touchdown in the first matchup, by the way. If Tank Bigsby is back coming off the bye, then we don't really want to play either running back. Bigsby had 7 for 90 in the first matchup here. Travis Etienne, just not exciting. But if they're splitting this backfield, it's really not exciting. And we've talked about the Giants giving up on Brian Dable. We'll watch the Jets and giving up on Aaron Rodgers. I don't know how to say that. How do we parse that? The Panthers aren't giving up, right? Dallas isn't giving up. Is Jacksonville giving up? We'll find out in this game.
Yeah, maybe. We'll know in just a little bit. The LA Rams versus the New Orleans Saints is our next contest. And the Ram side, again, if everybody's healthy, Bloom, this is pretty simple because it's Cup and it's Puka and it's Kyron and it's Stafford. And am I missing anybody?
Right. And a team that's very much in this divisional race and playoff picture still. We
And like
cannot
the
figure out the
Bengals,
Rams.
if they made it, they could go to the
Yeah,
Super Bowl.
right. And these two teams met in the Super Bowl a few years ago. I want to reflect back on when I moved to New Orleans late in 2018, and the Saints were on their last potential Super Bowl run with Drew Brees, and we all remember the hit, pass interference, missed the call. And I just want to say a tribute to my fellow New Orleanians that how did we cope? Well, I wasn't even part of the we yet at that point. Just a lot of blind refs. A lot of blind refs at Mardi Gras that year. So that's going to be on everyone's minds. The travesty, the injustice. The Rams, are they a good team? Again, I'm going to quote Pat Doherty, my friend, who said, are they the worst bad team or the best worst team? I don't know. But we know for fantasy, it's simple. Like you said, Nakua, Cup, Kyron. The Saints can be a stout defense. The Saints can also miss a lot of tackles. The Saints can also miss a lot of coverages. So Matthew Stafford's a boom bust play here. And I know where the boom is going to come from in the Saints offense. Cease, they've built the whole plane out of Taysom Hill.
Taysom Hill and maybe some Alvin Kamara gets going in this one. And from a fantasy perspective, well, what else you got?
Yeah, Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Hopefully, we'll see Chris Olave before the end of the year. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, the true what the heck flex, because it only takes one target. And Derek Carr and he were in tune in the deep passing game. And Taysom Hill, if anything, after what we saw, I think that's the new norm. It sounds like they're saying, hey, whatever, 8 catches, 7 carries, 3 touchdowns, kickoff return, let him throw. Maybe it's interception. Who cares? I think that's what you're going to see. So if you have Taysom Hill as your tight end, I mean, you're playing George Kittle over him. I honestly think you have tough choices. If it's Mark Andrews, if it's a tight end, I mean, who else presents the ceiling? Here we are, Cease, in the year 2024, and Taysom Hill might be the best fantasy tight end to have for your playoffs.
Things change quickly around here. That's what our guy Joe Bryant always says. We say 8 games down, 4 games to go. Buccaneers and Carolina in this contest, in this matchup. And it's Tampa Bay just trying to get hot and make a run at that playoffs, and they can. Mike Evans being healthy certainly does help. Baker Mayfield out there and
Yeah.
whatever celebration he does. Wonder if he's done the 23andMe yet. Either way,
Mm,
and I wonder if the backfield's going to be a kind of a bit of a mess, a productive mess though, maybe against Carolina. But still, 3-headed committees are fun to navigate. Yay,
right.
fantasy football.
Right. There was no double mint commercial for triplets. Cease, is it okay that I'm a Baker Mayfield fan? Is that okay? As I
Of
wear my
course.
Steelers shirt?
Of
I mean, how can
course.
you
Yes.
not be a fan of him? How can you not be a fan of him for fantasy? With Mike Evans back facing Carolina, Baker Mayfield's back to being a top 5, top 6 fantasy quarterback. Bucky Irving inching to the top of that committee, and he's got to be in your lineup. Bucky Irving could be one of the most valuable. Look at the schedule. Look at the Tampa Bay schedule. Bucky Irving even getting 50% of this backfield. And look, in a good offense, I mean, he's not as explosive as Jahmyr Gibbs, but let's just throw Jahmyr Gibbs out there as you can have a running back one getting 50, 60% of the snaps. That can happen if it's a good offense and a good running back. Bucky Irving is a really good running back. He's better than Kyron Williams. We're going to look at Bucky Irving and Kyron Williams for years to say, don't rely on the measurables if the tape shows you something different, i.e. someone that can play. Bucky Irving can play, and he's fun. He's exciting. Every time Bucky Irving has the ball on a reception or a carry, you don't know what's going to happen in a good way for fantasy football. Rashad White still should be in. Cade Otton, this might be the decision week of whether you even carry him, and he's a great player, but they don't need him to be a big part of the passing attack when they have Mike Evans and the 9 other guys, including Cade Otton, 10 other guys that Baker, the Baker and Bucky show. The Baker Mayfield completed passes to 11 different receivers last week. He might do it again this week.
Yeah, he might. And then throw out any sort of celebration.
Yeah. Let's see it. Get the fines. I mean, hey, I'll chip in if it's creative enough.
He said it was in the moment, so yeah, be in the moment. It's Carolina with Bryce Young maybe totally redeeming himself. Okay. And Chuba Hubbard saying it's my backfield. It's my bike, punk. Like, we love Jonathan Brooks in Dynasty. We're excited. Thought he would do some more, and he just didn't. So it's Young, it's Chuba, and maybe some targets as well that fantasy jams. Everyone's playing, so your Carolina players get pushed down a little bit, Bloom, because there's no bye week gauntlet to manage. But Carolina a little bit more exciting.
Oh, a lot more exciting with Bryce Young, and I think it's going to stick. I think Bryce Young has turned the corner. I think that he's more comfortable in Dave Canales' offense now. So you got a bunch of what the heck flexes. Adam Thielen, Xavier Legette, David Moore, who was the big play last week. We'll see if Jalen Coker can play. Helping the case of these 3 as what the heck flexes is Jatavian Sanders with that scary neck injury. It's not serious. I don't think we're going to see him in this one, though. And then you said Chuba Hubbard. It's still his backfield. Even if we see a little more Jonathan Brooks mixed in, it's still Chuba Hubbard's backfield. So with this offense very viable, even though Tampa's run defense is stout, their pass defense is not. So you know that Chuba Hubbard can get some touchdowns. And they don't need a quarterback now. They're in the same position as New England, right? So if they start winning games, maybe not so costly wins because you're building something. So that first 2.5 months of the season, it was a bad nightmare, but they're waking up from it. The Canales Young era may end up being positive after all. And by the way, these teams play again in Fantasy Championship Week 17, so pay close attention to this one for a forecast of what might happen when a lot more is on the line.
The forecast is all smiles when it's Philadelphia and Baltimore. A big one, a Super Bowl preview, perhaps Eagles side first in this one, and I just want to watch Saquon play. I just want to watch AJ play, right? I just want to watch Jalen Hurts play. And I want to see our buddy Jason Wood be happy. So Eagles side first. This one could be a fun one against Baltimore. And that defense you can push around.
Yeah, it's a bit of a blessing that Tampa, Carolina, Rams, Saints, not exactly the most compelling games. No West Coast games this week in that time slot. They did give us 3 games, and boy, did they give us a good one as that third game that you can clear the slate and just watch this game. Jalen Hurts. Now, you have the Philadelphia offensive line, but you also have a Ravens pass rush. Yes, the Ravens can be leaky on the back end against the passing game, but they also can get home in the pass rush. So are we going to see if Baltimore can get out to a lead? Are we going to get Jalen Hurts out of his comfort zone? Are we going to get Jalen Hurts throwing more? Or can Saquon Barkley put his stamp on yet another game? Ravens run defense is strong. So, Hurts, and again, for fantasy, there's not a lot of subtlety here. Hurts is going to be in your lineup. Barkley's going to be in your lineup. A.J. Brown's going to be in your lineup. Devontae Smith, is he going to play after he was ruled out, I think, on Friday last week? So let's watch the practice reports here. If Smith is out, maybe set up for Dallas Goedert to have a big game. And the Eagles, this is a really good yardstick for them. I mean, they're going to have to beat the Lions, probably. I don't want to bloom the Lions. They're probably going to have to beat the best team in the NFL, the Lions, to make the Super Bowl. So this is a pretty good simulation of a team that has a lot of strengths to deal with, an offense that is very tough to shut down, and a quarterback cease that is headed for another MVP award.
Love it, love it, love it. Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry and Zay Flowers and Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely and Rashad Bateman and more. Baltimore Ravens and more at home can make their statement that they are, regardless of their record, they're the best team in the league.
Yeah, or at least on the AFC side. We'll see. I can't wait to see how this team does against a Vic Fangio defense that is really coming on. They may know going into this game if the Steelers slip up against the Bengals that they can take the division lead back, get control of their fate in the division, and that's going to be with a lot of Derrick Henry, with Lamar Jackson, Zay Flowers, maybe to Rashad Bateman as a tech flex, lowering Zay Flowers upside, and of course Mark Andrews, who's still the man, at least in the red zone, and after rough first couple of weeks for fantasy has recovered. But again, this is one the fantasy takes not interesting here because we know these offenses. Do we know what's going to happen in this game? No. That's a wonderful thing.
That is great. Bloom, imagine how great it was when we thought about this game months
Oh,
ago, like 49ers and Bills. Wow. And then now it's like, wow. it's, it's not, I mean, Buffalo side's exciting, but let's talk 49ers first and just who's going to do what? Is Brock Purdy going to play the rest of the season? As we sit here recording on Wednesday morning, like there's so many questions with this team that
yeah.
we thought, yeah, they're going to be right back in the Super Bowl.
Yeah. And I don't think that the 49ers ownership would. Well, let me take a step back. You see San Francisco, Buffalo, and you have to be of a certain age. The first thing you should think of is Chris Berman. And just want to say that Chris Berman has a piece, I think, in your career, in my career, and a lot of careers of us that are amateur sports talkers. You're a professional. But Chris Berman made highlight shows fun. He put his
Yeah.
personality in, and he would predict San Francisco Buffalo every year for the Super Bowl for like 7 straight years, and it never happened. Every year. I mean, it was funny. What's your Super Bowl pick? You know what my Super Bowl pick is going to be. We're going to get it on Sunday night. Is Purdy going to play? If he plays, is he even going to play well? That's the thing. Even if he plays, that doesn't mean he should be playing. That doesn't mean he's going to be able to play up to the level he's played in the past. And we've already seen Purdy at the edge of his abilities as a passer. So if you have a player who's been dwelling at the edge of his abilities and now he has, oh, it's just a minor tear. You like that one sees, oh, it's just a minor tear in his throwing shoulder. Just a
Yeah.
little tear. The MRI just showed a little bit, not a lot. Oh, no. No. Purdy's not a safe play. If Purdy's out there, I do think Juwan Jennings is a safe play because Purdy can at least push the ball to him like 7-10 yards downfield. Of course, you're going to play George Kittle. Of course, you're going to play Christian McCaffrey. But boy, is Christian McCaffrey kind of an avatar for the hopes of this blueprint of the 49ers ever winning a Super Bowl as we're seeing him fade. Maybe we're seeing this team fade. And again, I was going to say the 49ers ownership doesn't strike me as being impulsive. I don't think Kyle Shanahan's going to get fired at the end of the season. I think even if they don't win another game for the rest of the season, which is possible, he won't get fired. But the fact that people are talking about it or thinking about it just shows you where they are in the arc of a team that should have won a Super Bowl, was good enough to win a Super Bowl more than once. It's all slip sliding away now, including another guy, Deebo Samuel. I'm going to probably tell a lot of people to bench Deebo Samuel this week because what has he done for us lately, Janet Jackson?
Yeah. What has he done for us lately? What's Josh Allen going to do? Go out there and try to win the Super Bowl and maybe try to throw a touchdown on every play. But it's a settled Josh Allen. It's Josh Allen at home. Um, and I haven't checked NFLweather.com, but we'll see
Just
because
cold.
just
Just
cold.
cold. Just
Oh,
cold.
okay. Well,
Yeah.
Josh
And
Allen.
not even that for Buffalo, you know?
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean,
You have your
for
shirt
Buffalo,
off.
it's ball exactly. I'm thinking, I don't know how many shots they had in Cleveland in the snow, but in Buffalo, like half the crowd will have their shirt off before the game even starts. Josh Allen is rolling. If it's not Lamar Jackson MVP, it should be Josh Allen MVP. Can we split the award? Maybe split it 3 ways, give one to Derrick Henry also. Lots of questions here coming out of the bye. Is Keon Coleman going to play? Is Darlton Kincaid going to play? Is Amari Cooper ready for a larger role? I think out of all these plays, also, Curtis Samuel, who's coming on before the bye, is he going to continue to play a larger role or at least a more impactful role in this passing game? I think Khalil Shakir is the only safe play in this passing game, but that's good news for Josh Allen because the more of these names that play, the more difficult this offense is going to be to defend. And let's give a nod to Joe Brady, who took an offense that didn't have a true deep threat, that didn't really have a trump card to play against the opposing defense except for Josh Allen. And they've gone through some different iterations, including James Cook getting the touchdowns, but James Cook was down to under 40% of the snaps. I think Ty Johnson got more snaps than James Cook. Now, James Cook could still be in your lineup, but what's going to come down the stretch? Is this going to turn into a 3-headed backfield a la Tampa Bay? We'll see on Sunday night.
Yeah, we will see. And then on Monday, we will watch Well, Bo Nix, but Jameis Winston, I just hope he's mic'd up for every game ever for the history
Yeah,
of ever.
yeah,
But either way, we know it is Browns and it is Broncos. Now, the Broncos, you can attack them with pass catching running backs or running backs that are just really good runners, especially watch the status of Zach Allen on Saturday. Why would you watch a defensive tackle? Because he's the best in the league and leading the league in pressures. And he missed the last game against the Raiders. And that's why they were able to get a little bit on the ground. Well, this is Nick Chubb, a Nick Chubb blow up game. Don't expect much from Jerry Jeudy. 7 of the 7 games this year, it's been 8 now. 8 games this year, Pat Surtain has held his opponent to under 25 yards. It's pretty good. Don't expect a lot from Jerry Jeudy, but this could be a David Njoku, still weak against the tight end, and Nick
yeah.
Chubb type of game for the Browns. It should be if they want to win.
Yeah, if they can keep it close, if their defense can keep it close, then you can get Chubb up to 20 carries, put the lean on the defense. And Njoku, it should be a bounce back game. Again, if you said, "Oh, I've got Taysom Hill," okay, well then put Njoku on the bench. I mean, there are some plays potentially, but Njoku, I think, should get a bounce back game here. Don't know if we're going to see Sutter Tillman. Don't know if it really matters. I have Jameis Winston as more of a desperation play this week because of how well Denver has been playing, and I think there's no play in the passing game outside of Njoku. The other thing I want to say here, of course, is memories of Ernest Biner. I think of Matt Waldman. I think of him because he takes many opportunities to think of us as Steelers fans. Ernest Biner, who did reach out to Waldman when he wrote about Ernest Biner. Think about John Elway and the drive and how different the recent history of the Browns would be. Not the Broncos, because it still took them a while to win a Super Bowl. But, heartbreak,
Yeah.
and it's for the Browns fans, it's probably feels more recent than the 25, 30, 35 years ago. We're old, Cease.
Yeah, we're old, but Bo Nix is young and on fire. And distributing the ball. Cortland Sutton, Devon Bailey looks like the number 2. And I'll be out at practice on Wednesday and Friday, and I'll see what's going on there in terms of Josh Reynolds' return or whoever. They got rid of Greg Dulcich. Giants picked him up. They don't use tight ends anyway. Just doesn't matter. It's a 3-headed running back
Right.
by committee, which you're avoiding at all costs. So it's Bo, it's Court, and it's Vele in this one.
Yeah. Yeah. And Cease, real quick, as much as you can, what happened with Greg Dulcich?
I just can't block.
What happened? And that's kind of important for Sean Payton.
Yeah.
And so for fantasy, there's not much here. Bo Nix is a quarterback 1. He's a high floor quarterback 1. Cleveland's pass defense is vulnerable, and that's where this offense runs through, is Bo Nix's arm. So the other thing I'll say here as we sign off for Week 13 is Sean Payton. No one's laughing at him. He's ahead of schedule. Nix is ahead of schedule. Still a football genius, I guess. And ask him, Cease, at the next, how did you become such a football genius? And are you going to come back to New Orleans for Mardi Gras?
Ha. He's got his house there, so of course he will.
Yeah.
He loves it. His every day is Mardi Gras for Sean Payton. So there you have it. That is a wrap for our Week 13 preview. We appreciate everyone. Watch our Thanksgiving show before Thanksgiving. Get your starting lineup set because you've got 4 games going on here before Thanksgiving. Hope everyone had a great and safe weekend. We'll be back on Monday morning for the waiver wire show. And also Sunday for our recap show. Sorry, just because the Broncos aren't playing. We'll do that after the early games. So he's Sigmund Bloom. I'm Cecil Lammey. We are the Audible. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned and stay frosty.